My beloved child, wait, do not scroll, pause for a moment and listen carefully. Something very unusual is happening right now. If this message has reached you today, it is not by accident. It is not random. And it is definitely not something ordinary. There is a reason your eyes are on these words at this exact moment. Because the archangels have been observing something connected to you, something connected to a separation that changed everything. Yes, that separation. The one that left questions in your heart. The one that made you wonder if the bond was truly over, or if something deeper was still unfolding behind the scenes. And the archangels are saying this clearly. After the separation from you, someone's heart has not been at peace. At first, everything looked normal on the outside. Life moved forward. Days passed. Conversations ended. Silence took over the space where voices once lived. But in the spiritual realm, something very different was happening. Archangel Michael and the messengers of light began noticing a shift. Because the person who walked away from you, or the person who allowed distance to grow between you, is now facing a realization they never expected. A realization that arrived slowly, quietly, almost like a whisper they could not ignore. And that whisper carried your name. You see, my beloved child, when two souls cross paths, the connection does not always disappear when distance appears. Sometimes separation becomes the moment when truth finally begins to speak. The archangels say that after the separation, this person tried to convince themselves that everything was fine. They tried to move on. They tried to pretend that the chapter had closed. But something kept interrupting their peace. A memory. A moment. A feeling. And each time it appeared, it carried the same question inside their heart. Did I lose something that was meant to stay? This question has been echoing in their thoughts more often than they want to admit. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But quietly, deeply, and persistently. Because when someone leaves a connection that was meant to teach them something important, the silence afterward becomes louder than the noise before. And that is exactly what the archangels are revealing today. They say the separation did not end the story. It only revealed the truth that was hidden during the time you were together. Think about it. When people are close, they sometimes take each other for granted. They believe the connection will always remain. They assume tomorrow will look exactly like today. But once distance arrives, everything changes. The heart begins to remember what the mind ignored. And the archangels are saying something extraordinary about what is happening now. Because the person connected to your story has been revisiting memories they once overlooked. Moments they once thought were ordinary now feel priceless to them. Words they once heard casually, now echo in their mind with a completely different meaning. They are beginning to see you through a new lens. A lens of clarity. And clarity often arrives after silence. The archangels want you to understand something very important. This message is not about forcing anything. It is not about controlling anyone's path. It is about awareness. Because spiritual connections often continue working even when people believe everything is finished. Energy does not disappear simply because two people stopped speaking. And right now, the energy between you and this person is shifting. The archangels describe it as a moment of awakening. Not necessarily dramatic. Not necessarily visible to the outside world. But powerful enough to change the direction of someone's heart. They say this person has recently experienced moments where your presence appeared unexpectedly in their thoughts. Maybe they heard a song that reminded them of you. Maybe they passed a place connected to a memory. Maybe they simply sat in silence and realized something they had never allowed themselves to admit before. That realization is this: your presence in their life meant more than they understood at the time. And now the distance has become a teacher. Distance reveals value. Distance reveals truth. Distance reveals feelings that were hidden beneath pride, confusion, or misunderstanding. The archangels say this person is now standing in a space of reflection. A space where they are quietly asking themselves questions. Questions like, what would have happened if I had chosen differently? What if the connection deserved more patience? What if the story was not supposed to end the way it did? These questions are not comfortable for them. But they are necessary. Because growth often begins with the courage to look back honestly. My beloved child, the archangels want you to hear something clearly. Your worth was never defined by that separation. Your value did not disappear when the distance appeared. Sometimes a separation happens not because a connection lacked meaning, but because both souls needed to learn something separately before understanding the true weight of what they shared. And right now, that lesson is unfolding on the other side. The archangels say the person connected to your story has been experiencing moments of emotional reflection that they cannot easily explain. They may not speak about it openly. They may not show it publicly. But internally, something has changed. And this change began quietly. It started with a small realization. Then another. Then another. Until the silence between you began to feel heavier than the conversations you once had. The archangels describe it like this. Imagine someone walking away from a beautiful garden without realizing what they left behind. At first they believe there are many gardens in the world. But as time passes, they begin noticing something missing. They remember the colors, the calmness, the feeling of peace that existed there. And suddenly, the memory becomes stronger than the belief that leaving was easy. This is the stage where reflection begins. And reflection has a powerful way of changing hearts. But here is something even more surprising the archangels want you to understand. This reflection did not begin randomly. It began because the spiritual connection between you and this person still carries unfinished understanding. That does not mean the future is predetermined. It means awareness is awakening. Sometimes people only realize the significance of a bond after it is no longer in front of them. Sometimes distance becomes the mirror that shows them what they could not see when everything felt familiar. And right now, according to the archangels, that mirror has appeared. They say this person is beginning to understand something that once remained hidden. Your presence in their life was not ordinary. It was meaningful. It carried lessons. It carried moments of growth. And it carried an energy they have not easily found elsewhere. This realization is not always comfortable. Because awareness often brings regret, reflection, and a desire to understand what truly happened. But the archangels are not sharing this message so you focus on the past. They are sharing it so you understand something powerful about yourself. Your heart had value. Your presence had meaning. And your connection left an imprint that did not disappear when the separation happened. Many people believe that once distance appears, the story is completely finished. But the spiritual realm sees things differently. Energy remembers. Lessons continue. Understanding grows. And sometimes, the silence between two people becomes the beginning of a deeper awareness. The archangels say something is still unfolding. Not in a rushed way. Not in a dramatic way. But in a quiet, powerful transformation inside someone's heart. And what they are beginning to understand about you may be the very thing they never allowed themselves to see before. But this is only the beginning of what the archangels revealed. Because what they discovered next, about the thoughts this person has been hiding, is something few people would expect. And once you hear what the archangels witnessed in the spiritual realm, you will understand why this message reached you today. My beloved child, stay with me for a moment longer. Because what the archangels revealed next is something very few people ever understand while a separation is happening. When two people move apart, the world often believes the story is finished. Friends assume everything has ended. Time continues moving. And silence grows between two lives that once shared a connection. But the spiritual realm watches differently. The archangels do not only see what happens on the outside. They see the silent conversations happening inside the heart. And recently, they noticed something very unusual surrounding the person connected to your story. At first, it was only a small moment. A moment of stillness. A moment when this person paused during their normal routine and suddenly felt something familiar appear in their thoughts. Not a memory forced by effort. Not a thought they tried to create. But something that appeared naturally, quietly, and unexpectedly. Your presence. The archangels say this moment surprised them. Because the mind can move forward quickly, but the heart moves in its own time. And the heart has a way of returning to places where something meaningful once existed. After that first moment, more began to appear. They began remembering small details. Little things that once seemed ordinary. Conversations. Laughter. Silences that felt comfortable rather than empty. They began remembering the way your presence brought a certain calm into their life. A calm they did not fully appreciate when it was part of their everyday world. And now, in the absence of that presence, they are beginning to recognize what it truly meant. My beloved child, the archangels want you to understand something important here. Realization does not always happen immediately. Sometimes people only understand the value of a connection when they experience life without it. And that is exactly where this person stands right now. At first they tried to ignore the thoughts. They told themselves it was simply nostalgia. They told themselves it was only temporary. But the archangels say the thoughts did not disappear. In fact, they became stronger. Not in a way that caused chaos, but in a way that created reflection. This person has been revisiting moments from the past more often than they admit. They replay certain conversations in their mind. They think about choices they made. They wonder how things might have unfolded if patience had been stronger, if understanding had arrived sooner, if certain words had been spoken differently. These thoughts arrive quietly, usually when the world around them becomes calm. Late at night. During quiet mornings. Or during simple moments when their mind is not distracted by noise. And during those moments, your memory appears again. The archangels say this realization has brought them into a place of deep reflection. Because they are starting to see the connection in a new light. When people are close to something meaningful, familiarity can hide its importance. But once distance arrives, the truth begins to reveal itself. This person is beginning to understand that what they shared with you was not something easily replaced. It was unique. It carried a certain energy. A certain understanding. A certain warmth that does not exist everywhere. And that awareness is slowly opening their eyes. But something even more surprising has happened recently. The archangels observe that this person has begun asking themselves a question they never asked before. Why does this memory keep returning? You see, the heart does not repeat memories without reason. Sometimes those memories return because there is still something the soul wants to understand. Sometimes they return because unfinished emotions are searching for clarity. And sometimes they return because the connection left an imprint that time cannot erase easily. The archangels say the person connected to your story is now standing in front of that realization. They are beginning to understand that the separation did not remove the meaning of the connection. If anything, it revealed it more clearly. They are starting to recognize the way your presence once influenced their life. The way your words offered guidance. The way your support appeared during moments when they needed it most. The way your energy brought balance to situations that once felt complicated. These realizations do not arrive all at once. They appear slowly. One memory at a time. One thought at a time. Until eventually the heart begins asking a deeper question. Did I walk away from something that truly mattered? This question has been echoing in their mind more often recently. The archangels say it is not a question they feel comfortable sharing with others. But internally, it has become impossible to ignore. Because the more they reflect, the more they begin seeing your presence in a new way. Not as something ordinary, but as something that carried meaning they did not fully understand before. And here is something else the archangels want you to know. This reflection has changed the way they see themselves as well. Sometimes separation becomes the moment when people begin examining their own actions. They look back at moments where they could have been more patient, more understanding, more open to listening rather than reacting. Growth often begins with honesty. And the archangels say this person has recently entered a phase of quiet honesty with themselves. They are recognizing things about the past that once remained hidden. Recognizing moments where pride spoke louder than understanding. Recognizing times when emotions created distance instead of connection. This awareness does not come with blame. It comes with maturity. Because every soul eventually reaches a moment where reflection becomes necessary for growth. And right now, that moment is unfolding. My beloved child, the archangels want to remind you of something powerful. While this reflection is happening on the other side, your journey has also been moving forward. Your growth has continued. Your understanding has expanded. The lessons you carried through the separation have strengthened your heart in ways you may not even realize yet. Because every experience shapes the person you are becoming. And the archangels say something remarkable about your energy. Despite the separation, your spirit remained strong. You continued walking your path. You continued learning. You continued growing. And that strength has created an energy that the spiritual realm recognizes clearly. Sometimes people only realize the strength of another person when they see that person continue moving forward with grace. And that is something the archangels say has been noticed. Your quiet resilience has left an impression. Even in the silence. Even without words. Energy speaks in ways people cannot always explain. And right now, that energy is part of the reflection happening in this other heart. But the archangels say the story does not stop there. Because recently something happened that made this person pause in a way they never expected. A moment that felt almost like a sign. A moment where your memory appeared so strongly, it felt impossible to ignore. It caught their attention. It made them stop. And it made them realize that the connection they once believed had ended may still be teaching them something important. What happened in that moment, and what the archangels witnessed afterward, revealed something even deeper about the bond that once existed between you. And once you hear what unfolded next, you may begin to understand why the archangels asked for this message to reach you today.